All right, let's talk about an idea that I think could totally change how you approach your professional growth. We're going to talk about creating your own teaching game film. Yeah, you heard that right. It's something elite athletes swear by. And honestly, it's about time we brought it into the classroom. Think about it. Any pro athlete, heck, even high school players, they all review their performance on film after every single game. It's just what you do to get better. It's completely non-negotiable. So that begs the question, right? Why isn't it standard practice for teachers?
So first, let's really dig into what makes this whole game film thing so incredibly powerful in sports. What is the pro athlete's secret anyway?
Well, the big idea here is actually pretty simple. Elite performance is built on a foundation of constant, and I mean immediate, feedback. Athletes are using video, they're using data to analyze every single move, to find those tiny little areas for improvement, and then, here's the key, make adjustments right away, not weeks later. This is happening from Little League all the way up to the pros. It's just how you get good at something.
Okay, but now let's shift gears. When we step off the athletic field and into the classroom, the picture changes. A lot. And this is what we're calling the teacher's blind spot. This chart right here, it says it all. For an athlete, feedback is instant. It's packed with data, and it's a team effort. But for a teacher, our feedback loop is often delayed by months. It's usually based on anecdotes, and most of the time it happens in total isolation. You know, a race car driver has a crew chief watching their every move. As teachers, who's our crew chief? A supervisor who's also trying to manage 50 other drivers? It's just an impossible setup. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. We're basically asking teachers to deliver a super complex lesson while also trying to critique themselves in real time. You're trying to manage the whole classroom, keep students engaged, and take mental notes on your own performance. It's impossible. You can't be in the game and watching from the sidelines at the exact same time. So what do we do? How do we possibly bridge this gap? How do we get our very own crew chief without, blowing the entire school budget? Well, this is where a totally new kind of partner comes into play. Let's talk about an AI coach. Now hold on. An AI instructional coach isn't about replacing a human mentor. Not at all. Think of it more like your private, totally non-judgmental thought partner. It's there for you 24/7, ready to help you look at the raw data of your teaching and actually see what's happening in your classroom.
And look, let's just address the elephant in the room right now. I get it. A lot of the fear swirling around AI in education comes from this idea that the robots are coming to take our jobs.
But that's not the goal here. The real focus, the real power, is in using AI as a mirror. I mean, you wouldn't get ready in the morning without looking in a mirror, right? Well, teaching without this kind of reflection is like trying to do your job in the dark. AI is just the tool that finally gives us a perspective we physically can't get while we're in the middle of a lesson. And here's something else. There's a huge psychological benefit here. Think about it. When your supervisor tells you that you spent too much time on homework review, it can feel like a criticism, can't it? You might get a little defensive. But when an AI points out that your teacher talk time was at 80% for the first 10 minutes, or that you only asked one open-ended question, it's just data. It's an objective fact from a machine that doesn't have feelings. And that makes it so much easier to hear, to accept, and most importantly, to act on. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how does it actually work? Let's get practical and break down a really simple 3-step playbook that you could honestly start using tomorrow. Your game film workflow really boils down to just this. It's a simple, repeatable process. First, you capture the evidence from your lesson. Then, you input it for analysis. And finally, you reflect on what you find. Capture, input, reflect. That's it. Okay, step 1, capture. You've got to get the raw data from your lesson. And listen, this does not have to be complicated. Next time you're explaining a tough concept, just pull out your phone and hit record on the voice memo app. Most phones even have a transcribe feature built right in now. Or you could just snap a quick photo of your whiteboard after class, or upload your lesson plan. We're just grabbing the stuff you're already creating. Step 2, input. This is where you feed that data to an AI with a really specific coaching prompt. You don't just ask, "Hey, how did I do?" No way. You get specific. You say something like this. Analyze my explanation of induction circuits. Were the analogies I used clear, or were they too abstract? Did I ask questions that made my students think, or were they just simple yes or no questions? And finally, step 3, reflect. The AI is going to comb through that data and spot patterns that you absolutely would have missed in the moment. For instance, maybe it shows you that 80% of the questions your students asked were about the math part of the problem, not the chemistry concept you're trying to teach.
That kind of insight lets you make what we call micro pivots, these tiny data-driven adjustments to your teaching every single day, instead of waiting months for some big formal observation.
But seeing the problem is only half the battle. So for this last part, let's talk about using this incredible tool to actually figure out your next move.
Because this whole process, it's not just about getting feedback. It's about generating solutions. Once you know what the problem is, say students aren't getting a key concept, you can use the very same tool to help you find an answer.
Here is a perfect example. You could literally tell the AI, my students are totally confusing voltage and amperage. Create a hands-on analogy for me involving water pipes that I can set up in less than 5 minutes. And boom! Just like that, you have a brand new, actionable strategy ready to go for tomorrow's class.
The biggest benefit here is that you get to reclaim your time. I mean, instead of spending an hour falling down a Google rabbit hole trying to find a better explanation, you can spend 2 minutes generating one. This frees you up to do what you do best. Be the teacher, not a search engine.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. If you really had your own teaching game film, if you could go back and analyze any single moment from your class this past week, what's the very first play you'd want to review? Seriously, think about it. Whatever just popped in your head, that's your starting point.